My father Elias always said that time is the only thing money can't buy. But sitting in that mahogany-walled office in Boston, it felt like time had run out for me. While my stepmother Victoria and her children inherited the millions, the mansions, and the empire, I was left with what they called junk. A decaying watchmaker's shop in the ghost town of Ravens Hollow, and a broken brass pocket watch. Victoria's laughter cut deeper than the cold rain outside. A pile of rot for a disappointing daughter, she sneered. I gripped the rusted key in my pocket, feeling the sting of betrayal. But as I looked at the broken watch in my hand, I remembered my father's last whisper. Clara, the most valuable things are often hidden in plain sight. They thought they won. They didn't know the clock was just starting to tick. Ravens Hollow was a town that time forgot, swallowed by mist and silence. The shop stood at the end of a dead-end street, a 3-story skeleton of blackened timber and grime-streaked glass. But as I turned the rusted key, the house didn't just open. It groaned. A deep, metallic shudder echoed through the floorboards, like a beast waking from a long slumber. Inside, hundreds of clocks hung from the walls like sleeping eyes, frozen at different centuries. It smelled of machine oil, rotting wood, and ancient dust. My stepmother was right. It looked like a ruin. But as darkness fell, the silence revealed a secret. Every hour the floor vibrated, and from deep within the oak-paneled walls I heard it, a slow, powerful tick-tock, like the heartbeat of a giant hidden in the shadows. My father hadn't left me a shop. He had left me a machine. On the third night, the broken pocket watch in my coat grew strangely warm. I pulled it out and noticed something I had missed. Hidden beneath the tarnish was a microscopic star map. I realized then, the heartbeat of this house wasn't random. It was synchronized with the watch in my hand. Following the map, I stood before a massive grandfather clock in the main hall. There were no hands on its face, only a circular indentation. I pressed my pocket watch into the slot. Click. The floorboards groaned and parted, revealing a spiral staircase descending into the earth. Down there, I didn't find a basement. I found a masterpiece, a mechanical vault humming with golden gears and quartz lights. And in the center, a steel chest with my name on it, holding the evidence that would destroy Victoria's empire once and for all. I was deep in my father's letters when the world outside shattered. Headlights cut through the mist, and a black SUV screeched to a halt. Victoria had arrived. She didn't come for a visit. She came for a harvest. Gone was the grieving widow, replaced by a predator with fire in her eyes. Her stiletto heels drummed against the floorboards like a death march. I know the old man hid it here. She hissed into the shadows. Elias spent 5 years bleeding the company dry to fund this ruin. Give me the watch, Clara, or you'll never leave this town. She didn't just want the gold. She wanted to burn the proof of her crimes. Down in the vault, I held my breath, the documents pressed to my chest, as the floorboards above me groaned under the weight of her greed. The thud of Victoria's cane above my head grew faster, more desperate. But I stopped trembling. I remembered my father's voice. Every machine has a rhythm, Clara. Change one beat, and the whole world shifts. I reached for the central console, a brass labyrinth of levers and pulleys. I threw the master switch. Upstairs, hundreds of clocks began to chime at once, a deafening symphony that sent Victoria's thugs reeling. Bookshelves spun, floorboards tilted, and doors locked themselves like a living maze. Victoria's screams echoed as she found herself trapped in a room where 1,000 clock hands began to spin at impossible speeds. While they fought the house, I slipped through the garden hatch, leaving the predators caged in the very masterpiece they tried to steal. Safe in the shadows of the garden, I opened the last small box I'd salvaged. It wasn't full of papers, but a tiny brass phonograph. As I wound the key, my father's voice filled the cold air, warm, steady, but aimed at someone else. It was a secret recording. "I know you're putting the poison in my tea, Victoria." My father's voice rang out, sharp and clear. In the recording, Victoria didn't deny it. She boasted, believing he was too weak to fight back. My heart shattered. He had spent his final days playing the fool just to trap the devil. With trembling hands, I hit send on my phone, transmitting the file to Inspector Miller in Boston. The clock had struck 12. Victoria's time was officially up. Before the sun could break the horizon, the mist of Raven's Hollow was torn apart by blue and red lights and the wail of sirens. Justice had finally found its way to the old shop. Victoria stumbled out of the mechanical maze, her hair disheveled and her clothes torn, but she didn't find her getaway car. She found the cold steel of handcuffs. Inspector Miller stepped out of the fog, holding the warrant. "Victoria Miller, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and the murder of Elias Miller." She screamed, looking at me. Standing there quietly next to Silas, my father's loyal old caretaker. She couldn't believe she had been defeated by a useless daughter and a pile of scrap metal. As they pushed her into the squad car, the cameras flashed like lightning. Her empire crumbled in a single night, exactly like the clocks in the house, precise and final. As the noise of the sirens faded, I returned to the vault. I realized I still didn't understand why my father had sacrificed so much for this old shop. Beneath the floorboards, I found a final set of blueprints. He hadn't just hidden gold in the basement. He had cast the very gears, shafts, and components of this massive mechanical house out of solid 24-karat gold, then disguised them with a thin layer of brass. Tons of wealth were hidden inside the walls, silently keeping the pulse of the house for decades. Elias had turned his fortune into a living, breathing masterpiece instead of cold numbers in a bank. But the true treasure was the letter tucked behind the scrolls. "Clara, money is just spinning gears, but compassion is the spring that keeps the world turning. Use this place to mend broken hearts, the way I mended broken clocks." 6 months later, Elias's Kronos was no longer a ghost in the mist. I used the wealth hidden in the walls to restore the shop, turning it into a sanctuary for ancient timepieces and a school for orphaned children, those the world called broken, just like my inheritance. Every clock in the shop now ticks in perfect unison. I traded my dusty coat for a master watchmaker's apron, my hands finally learning the rhythm of the golden gears. Silas is still here, his old eyes bright with pride as he manages the workshop. The people of Raven's Hollow have returned, bringing their faded memories for me to wind back to life. The house no longer shakes with traps, it hums with the music of second chances. Victoria Miller was sentenced to life, her empire of lies evaporating like mist. But here in Raven's Hollow, the Miller name is spoken with gratitude. I finally understood my father's final lesson. A person's worth isn't defined by what they own while they live, but by what they leave behind when they're gone. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I take out the old brass pocket watch. It still doesn't tick. Its hands are still frozen at the exact moment my father passed away. I'll never fix it. It's a reminder that some moments are so precious, time should never touch them. I look out the window at the town coming back to life and smile. I found the true inheritance. Not the gold in the walls, but the peace in my heart